Picture this. A towering caveman slings a frightened woman over his shoulder and disappears into the wilderness while the tribe cheers. It's one of the oldest images in popular culture, a scene repeated in cartoons, movies, and history books for more than a century. But what if this iconic story is one of the greatest myths ever told about our ancestors? Today, ancient DNA, archaeology, and anthropology are dismantling that stereotype piece by piece. The evidence points to something far more surprising. Human love was shaped not by brute force, but by trust, cooperation, and choice. And that changes everything we thought we knew about the origins of romance. The image of prehistoric men stealing wives by force didn't come from archaeological discoveries. It originated in the 19th century, when scholars like John F. M. Clennon and John Lubbock speculated that early human societies were locked in constant warfare, leaving women as trophies to be captured. Their theories spread widely, despite having almost no first-hand evidence from hunter-gatherer communities. Modern anthropology tells a remarkably different story. Studies of the Jew/Honzai people of southern Africa, whose traditional lifestyle closely resembles that of ancient hunter-gatherers, show that women exercise significant freedom in choosing their partners. They regularly rejected unwanted suitors, and when relationships failed, divorce often occurred peacefully without violence or social chaos. Imagine living in a band of just 20 to 50 people, where every conversation, every disagreement, and every flirtatious glance unfolded in full view of everyone else. There were no castles, no fortunes, no private estates to impress a potential partner. Reputation was everything. The most desirable individuals were not necessarily the strongest hunters. They were the ones who could be trusted, who remained calm during danger, who shared food generously, and who made others laugh when life became difficult. Perhaps that's the first great lesson our ancestors left us. Long before wealth became attractive, character already was. As darkness settled across the ancient savanna, something extraordinary happened. Unlike most animals, our ancestors didn't retreat into silence after sunset. Instead, they gathered around a glowing campfire. Faces flickered in the orange light. Children listened with wide eyes. Elders shared memories. Hunters reenacted dangerous encounters. Laughter echoed into the night. The discovery of fire transformed far more than our diet. It transformed our relationships. Scientists believe these extra hours after sunset became an evolutionary classroom where language, music, storytelling, empathy, and cooperation flourished. Even today, sitting around a fire increases feelings of social bonding, partly through the release of endorphins, our brain's natural feel-good chemicals. Anthropologists studying the Agta hunter-gatherers of the Philippines uncovered another fascinating clue. The tribe's best storytellers weren't just entertainers. They were more respected, more socially connected, and ultimately had more surviving children than less engaging members of the group. That suggests humor and storytelling were not luxuries of civilization. They were survival skills, qualities that made people better allies, better partners, and better parents. Now here's a question for you. If you had lived 100,000 years ago, what do you think would have made you attractive to others? Your strength, your kindness, your sense of humor, or your ability to tell unforgettable stories? Let us know in the comments before we uncover the surprising biological reason why love became essential for human survival. Love is often celebrated in poetry, songs, and films. But long before it inspired art, it solved one of evolution's greatest challenges. Human babies are born astonishingly helpless. Compared with newborn chimpanzees, a human infant arrives with a brain only about 1/3 of its adult size. Yet that rapidly growing brain consumes nearly 30% of the baby's total energy, making human childhood the longest and most demanding among the great apes. For a prehistoric mother, raising such a child alone would have been nearly impossible. She had to gather food, avoid predators, and protect an infant that couldn't even cling securely to her body. Evolution found an answer. Not in stronger mothers, but in stronger relationships. Anthropologists call this cooperative breeding. Fathers, grandparents, older siblings, and even unrelated members of the group all helped feed, protect, and care for children. This shared responsibility allowed human mothers to wean children earlier and have offspring more frequently than other great apes, giving our species a remarkable evolutionary advantage. Even men's biology adapted. Studies show that when men enter committed relationships and become fathers, their testosterone levels often decline naturally. With lower aggression and greater parental investment, their energy shifts from competing for mates to protecting and nurturing their families. But here's the real mystery. If love helped build families, who helped those families survive across generations? The answer may lie with someone evolution almost forgot: the grandmother. One of the strangest features of our species is that women often live for decades after they stop having children. From a purely evolutionary perspective, that seems inefficient, unless those extra years served another purpose. This idea is known as the grandmother hypothesis. Rather than continuing to reproduce, older women increased the survival of their grandchildren by gathering food, sharing knowledge, caring for infants, and allowing younger mothers to recover and have more children. In other words, human families didn't survive because of parents alone. They survived because entire generations worked together. And this deep capacity for care wasn't unique to Homo sapiens. For decades, Neanderthals were portrayed as savage brutes. Archaeology now paints a very different picture. At the cave of Shanidar in present-day Iraq, researchers uncovered the skeleton known as Shanidar I. The man had suffered devastating injuries. He was blind in one eye, partially deaf, walked with a severe limp, and had lost part of one arm. Yet he survived for many years after these injuries. He could not have done so alone. Someone hunted for him. Someone shared food with him. Someone protected him through harsh winters. That means compassion, caregiving, and long-term commitment existed tens of thousands of years before written history. And the story becomes even more extraordinary when ancient DNA reveals that love didn't stop at the boundaries of one human species. It crossed them. For thousands of years, early human groups lived in remarkably small populations. Remaining within the same family for generations would have led to dangerous levels of inbreeding. To survive, our ancestors built social networks that stretched far beyond their own camps, exchanging not only tools and knowledge, but also marriage partners. The genetic evidence is astonishing. At Sunghir, a 34,000-year-old burial site in Russia, scientists sequenced the DNA of 4 individuals buried together, including 2 children laid head-to-head with extraordinary care. Surprisingly, they discovered these individuals were not close relatives. Even in death, the community was organized by social bonds rather than immediate family ties, suggesting that prehistoric people deliberately sought partners outside their own kin groups. Then came one of the greatest discoveries in paleoanthropology. Inside Denisova Cave in Siberia, researchers found a tiny fragment of bone only 2 centimeters long. Ancient DNA revealed it belonged to a 13-year-old girl now known as Denny. She wasn't simply related to 2 different human groups. She was a first-generation hybrid, born to a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father. In a single fossil, the boundaries between ancient human species suddenly dissolved. But perhaps the most intimate evidence of all wasn't hidden in bones. It was preserved in something almost invisible. Ancient bacteria carried from one mouth to another through a prehistoric kiss. Our world has changed, but our hearts still run on ancient instincts shaped around prehistoric campfires. Love, trust, and compassion helped our ancestors survive, and they still shape us today. If you enjoyed this journey into our past, please subscribe and help us reach our first 1000 subscribers. And tell us, what surprised you most about prehistoric love?